What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you're spending this very gloomy day with me, and I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. So right now I'm just on my way back from the gas station because I have a severe nicotine and caffeine addiction. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. All right, so we've got a very busy day today. What I want to do today is get the turbo motor in the white Jeep and also the fuel system and route all the lines possibly. I might wait on routing the lines. The reason for that is because I'd really like for the motor and the transmission to both be in the Jeep before I do that. That way I can route the lines and go around the trans, around the engine. And if I do it that way, there's a less chance of me pinching a line off, and then I would have to buy 30 more feet of 6AN line, which is not cheap if you guys didn't know. AN line is it's worth its weight in gold, some might say. But so I'm gonna put you guys down. We'll be at the house in just a second and we're gonna get started. Copper's so afraid of the torpedo heater. Feels so bad, but I'm not freezing my ass off out here. Alright, so we got it warmed up in here a little bit, and I've ran into a couple of issues that I just thought about. The first thing I wanted to do was put the engine in the white Jeep first. So we're gonna take the engine, put it in the white Jeep first, and we're gonna put a block of wood under the oil pan and use the jack and jack it up so that the engine's sitting in there straight. So basically, right here is the motor mount with the bushing and such. If I put this motor in here, the motor is going to want to lean backwards. So we'd kind of be destroying, this is just the factory motor mount. These are my motor mounts that I got to put in yet. But it'd be putting a lot of stress on the bushings inside of there. So what you're supposed to do is take the jack and jack the back of the engine up just to support it, because the trans acts as part of the motor mount. Trans bolts to the engine, and then the back of the trans bolts to, you can't really see it, the cross member, and then cross member bolts to the frame. It's the unibody, but whatever. So, no issues yet, right? However, there is. When, I'm only one person. I never have people to help, probably because I don't ask them to help. When I take the fuel tanks out of both these Jeeps, there's fuel in both of them. So what I've done my entire life is take the jack with a block of wood, put it up under the fuel tank, and then once I get the fuel tank straps loosened, I just lower it down. So now, do you see where the issue is evolving? We need a jack to support the back of the motor. We also need a jack to support the back of to support the fuel tank when I lower it down. I only have one jack, and I only have 4 jack stands. I would just jack the back of the motor up and then kind of lightly wedge a couple blocks of wood under the oil pan. However, I'm using them all for trans number 1, trans number 2, blown up motor. Those are like all the pieces of wood I have. So what I'm gonna do is we're just gonna send it, man. We're just gonna put the engine in here, figure out a way to keep it supported. Or maybe with these aftermarket motor mounts, the motor won't sag as much, hopefully. That would be ideal. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take my new motor mounts from the red Jeep and put them in this guy, hook the cherry picker up to the motor, and get started. Alright, so obviously, first order of business is take the radiator that I put in for some reason, lay it in a very safe spot. Even though it's very impressive, this Chinese radiator, no leaks, all the fans work very well. And it was like $200, and it's like a triple core or whatever. It's bigger than the factory one. Second order of business, we've got to put the aftermarket motor mounts in. I got a Milwaukee impact ratchet, finally. So, let's see how this thing does. This is why I lose tools, because I set them on the ground after I'm done using them. Oh, Jesus Lord. Don't tell me. There's got to be settings on this thing, right? That's sad. This thing will never get used. It's pretty slick. Not gonna lie, it is. It is pretty slick. I feel like I'm gonna trash it though. Not gonna lie. That's tits, man. That's tits right there. What always gets me is... So the motor mounts, mine, the brown dog ones, the yellow ones, I'll just show you. They've got the holes for the bolts. They're ovaled out. So obviously that's in there for some adjustments reasons. That just gives you so much room for error. What if you mount the motor in there and it's not lined up with the trans, and then obviously your trans will bolt up flush to the motor, but then your drive shaft, instead of being straight, it's going to be like this or this. Don't understand it. So I think what I'm going to do, just leave them loose, like not very loose, like probably almost finger tight or just before finger tight. That way I can still move it. I'll get the motor dropped in with the cherry picker, obviously to motor mount height, and then I'll adjust them accordingly. I'd say that's pretty good. You gotta take the one off of this Jeep now. I'll just show you what I'm doing. Alright, we got the other motor mount out, and you can see that my exhaust pipe was melting the bushing in this one. She's still cherry. She'll still do her job. As you can see, what I was telling you guys earlier is the holes in the motor mounts are ovaled, so it gives you some adjustment. Only this way, not this way, only this way. So both sides can move. What I plan on doing is, like I said, dropping the motor in with the cherry picker, letting it float in midair like a magician, and then I will adjust these as they're supposed to go. But right now, I got to get some of these wires out of the way more and just allow myself to have more room. I cannot describe to you guys how much I love touching my brand new camera with grease hands. And this ain't nothing yet. This ain't nothing yet. So what I really wanted to do was take the pressure washer to this engine bay, but it just scares me that there's so many open connections. Obviously there's no battery in it yet, but I don't want water to sit in them and corrode and get all nasty, and then I'm chasing a wiring issue. That is the least thing that I want to do. I do not want to do that. That's why when I built this motor, I bought all new sensors, like the idle air control valve, the TPS sensor, CPS sensor, what else? Intake air temperature. I might have already... No, intake air temperature. That's right. Coolant temp sensor, O2 sensor, like everything. Oil pressure sensor. That way, there's a much smaller chance of me... So, I did that. I bought all new sensors for it because if I went to start it and it didn't start, I could be like, okay, it's not just a dumb sensor. Something else is wrong, like timing, or there's something wrong in the tune. But lucky for me, when I first tried to start this and it didn't start, we knew right away it was timing because it was throwing flame balls out of the throttle body. And I knew it was getting spark and it was trying to fire. It was just trying to fire completely backwards. So I'm gonna move these transmissions out of the way, and then gonna move the pit bike so I can pull the cherry picker out, hook it up to the engine, and drop it in. Cherry pick it in. I'm going to turn you off because my SD card is only so big and the battery is only so big as well. I'm already down to 2 bars. You kidding me? Alright, we got the transmissions moved out of the way. So let's get this motor pulled out a little more. Also, I cannot tell you how many times I was in AutoZone and walked right past this because I didn't want to spend the $15 on it. I got it I got it for Christmas this year, and I can't even tell you how many times I've used it. Imagine if the engine stand just failed. Let me just say, the battery life on this piece of Unitree that's recording me right now is so bad, and I wish I could show you how I'm charging it right now, but if I did that, everything would probably explode, and it just wouldn't be good. I've got my laptop plugged into the wall, and then from the laptop, I have the cord that charges the camera plugged into the laptop, because I don't have one of the USB charging blocks anymore, because apparently they're extinct. But like I said, it's time to hook the chains up to said motor, and yeah, I'm gonna shut you guys off because this camera's probably gonna die as it's charging. So, as you can see, I've got the chain hooked up and whatnot. Where my tie down points are on a 4.0 is right here. This is for the AC compressor. There's a 14mm bolt in there. That's my first one. And then for an inline engine, you're going to want to go from the front on the left or the right, and then vice versa, the back on the left or the right. So this is just what I do. It's easiest for me. So we got front left, and the back right over here is where, so let me show you something. I don't really like this here. I'm using one of my manifold bolts, and this intake manifold is aluminum. It's cast at that, so it's fairly easy to break. What I would normally do is the back driver's side of the engine, there's a stud here and it has a nut on it. This is for one of your ground straps. I think it's for like your radio or something. But you just undo the ground strap, and then Roscoe says hello, and then that's where your tie down would be. You'd put the chain on and then thread the nut down on. Unfortunately for me, I don't have that anymore because of my head studs, and there is no way I'm getting a chain to thread down on those, like 5 threads sticking out. So that's why I use this. It's worked plenty of times, so I'm not too worried about it. I just really hate doing it, to be honest with you. But so we're gonna raise this thing up, get it off the engine stand, and then drop her in. All right, so I got a little carried away. So let me think of what I was trying to say. So these are my old turbo mounts. They mounted to the inner fender well. So if you guys don't know, when you're mounting your turbo, it should be mounted to the engine, because your engine rotates a little bit when you put it under load. And if you don't mount it to your engine, it can crack and break your exhaust manifold. So what I did was I took my 2 turbo manifold or turbo mounts off, and I wanted to do that for 2 reasons. 1, because they're supposed to be mounted to the engine. 2, every bolt on this T4 flange was loose, especially this one. And unfortunately, this is the turbo oil drain flange thing that goes up in here. And as you can see, when that's in there, this bolt is basically inaccessible. You can't get to it. So I took it off. Gonna have to RTV that again. And then I got that guy tightened down. And then this V-band was also loose, because if you push down on the turbo, the whole up pipe would go. So I got a little carried away. I'm going to get this all put back together, re-siliconed up, and then we'll get back to what we were initially going to do. Alright, so here we go again. I've got my drain bung flange RTV'd up and tightened down in there. So one thing I found when I took my oil drain line off is if you look inside, you don't even have to look inside. It is all just mangled, and I'm not going to run that again. So what I'm going to do is I think I have enough to cut some off and put her back up on there. So the way, I know a lot of people fuss about how they cut a end line. When I worked for Full Send Diesel for a little bit, we used like bolt cutters almost, and they worked great. Well, I don't have bolt cutters. So what I do is I get some masking tape, wrap it around right where I want to cut, and then I'll get the grinder out and just cut it off that way. And that really is the cleanest way I've seen it done. So that's what I'm going to do, and then we can get to what we were originally going to do. Alright, we got the line cut down, and we did have enough hose to make it work. However, we're pretty close to this exhaust now, so what I'm going to do is take some of this heat shielding, wrap it around the oil drain line, and yeah, then we'll be done with that, and we can do what we were supposed to do! As you can see, if you didn't see any of that, we put the metal or the fiberglass heat shielding on the drain line, and now I'm putting these metal zip strips on there. Now what you would normally do is take a pair of pliers, like needle nose, and grab the tail end of the zip tie and twist it to get it really tight, but this is a drain line, so I don't want it really tight, because then it wouldn't be doing its job, which is to drain. Can I get over you guys? No. Get my snap-on dikes. Again, for some reason, can you guys see that? They keep spelling snap-on wrong. I-C-O-N. Beats me, man. As long as they're the same quality. Bing. Bam. Bop. Bing, bam, bop. Just like that. And now I feel a whole lot better about this drain line. Because I think I was leaking a little bit of oil out of it. But we're good now. Alright, here goes nothing. This is probably going to take a little longer, so hopefully the camera does not die. Oh, heavy. Alright, so we've got the engine placed in here, and we have both big motor mount bolts in and through. Now, I'm thinking the motor is too far to the passenger side, because I would imagine those bolts are supposed to be in the middle of those ovals, and when I crawl down under the Jeep and look at the back of the motor, it even looks like the motor is to the passenger side too much. So right now I'm trying to get all the tension off of the yellow motor mount as possible. That way I can slide the motor over a half an inch or so, because I just really don't want any binding happening when I go to put the transmission in. Alright guys, well, she's in. As you can see, she is fully bolted in. I still have to tighten up some stuff on the turbo side, because I had to kind of let the turbo do what it wanted to do while the motor dropped down. I'll show you what I mean here about putting something under the back of the oil pan. So if I just rock the motor, I'm sure you can see that. So it's really loose in those bushings, and over time, if it sits like that for long enough, it's gonna wear them out, and your motor mounts are gonna be shot. Probably not gonna get to the fuel system part tonight. That'll be a tomorrow thing. But yeah, I'm super pumped that we got the oil drain line figured out and buttoned up, so it shouldn't be leaking oil anymore. And I've got heat shield on it, so pumped up about that. But yeah, I'm gonna get the cherry picker unhooked from it completely, and then we can I can get some shots of the motor in here, how it sits right now, and I'll probably tighten up the one V-band that I had to loosen, and the motor will be in. What's happening, guys? It's the next day, I believe. It's Wednesday. It's funny how you lose time. It's Wednesday the 27th, I believe. I think I'm right there. So as you guys saw, we got the motor in the Jeep. She's all bolted up, and we're just gonna leave her sit there because I'm gonna need the jack to get the fuel system around. But I did a couple other things. I put the battery box in, put the battery in, and then started hooking up a lot of the connections. There were two that the connections are different from 97 to 99 apparently. The distributor, which is the I believe cam position sensor, that plug that goes into your distributor, and then the coil. No, coil's correct. I don't know. All I know is I needed an adapter plug for the coil on the red Jeep, and on the white Jeep I don't. So, but there were two plugs, I can't remember. Oh, oil pressure sensor. That is also different. So the distributor and oil pressure sensor, those two plugs are different. Pretty sure if I just cut the wires out of the red Jeep and splice them into the harness on the white Jeep, all should be well, I think. But today I think what we're gonna do is splice in those new connections for the distributor and the oil pressure sensor, and just see where the day takes us. You never know. You never know. But alright, you guys already know where I'm heading, the fucking gas station, because the boy is thirsty and tired and he needs his energy drink. So I'll catch you guys in a minute. Alright, just like that, we're back in the garage, and like I was saying to you guys just a moment ago, we got the battery in, and we're getting basically all of this side of the harness plugged in. We got some stuff that is no longer needed. This is all AC related. Right in there, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it, but these are supposed to plug into each other, and they don't. And then this is the distributor wire. It is supposed to plug into this guy, and that is also not a thing. But yeah, to start the day off, we're just gonna start. We've got those two connections that don't really fit, so we're gonna cut them off the red Jeep and cut them off of this Jeep, and then splice them together. And hopefully they're the same colored wires. because I don't want to play the is this positive or ground game. One more thing that I forgot to tell you guys is this part of the harness goes to the alternator. On the alternator on the old engine, this had 2 bolts that went here and here. They're like little ground bolts. And then another post that this went on and another post that this went on. It's not even close to the same thing as the red Jeep. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. We'll figure something out. Alright, I think what we're going to do first is change out the alternators, as much as I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do, tear the battery out, tear the AC compressor out, and then that'll give me some room to get into the alternator. I'll be right back. I've got it. It's brand new alternator. It's a shame, really is. And we've got the old alternator out. I just want to show you guys what I'm talking about here. See on that one how there's 2 right in the middle of the screen, there's those 2 studs, and that's what that plug on the harness on this white Jeep, that's what they connect to. And then right there, that's what the other 2 ground posts connect to. This doesn't have any of that. This has a literal plug and 1 post for ground. I don't know. I'm not an alternator man. Alright, I'm losing my breath holding these up. I don't know if 99 and 97 alternators are just different. I'd assume. That's definitely what it looks like. I'm going to slap this thing in the Jeep, and then we can put everything back together, and then we'll get to snipping the harness from the red Jeep, snipping the harness from the white Jeep, and splicing them together. Alright, new alternators in. Really, the only 2 bolts that hold your guys' alternator in is the top one. There's a 15mm bolt with a 15mm nut behind it, and then this 15mm here. Now, maybe you guys can do it. I couldn't. I undid these 2 bolts. The alternator was loose, but I couldn't get it out and around this bracket here. So no big deal. There's 1, 2, 3 15mm nuts. These are all 3 studs, and then another 15mm here. This bracket pops off, and then the alternator comes out with ease. Alright, we got the problem. I'm going to make this quick because I just see my Graham and Pat coming by my house. They're definitely stopping in. This is the plug off the 99 Cherokee. As you can see, it has 3 wires coming out of it. The one on the 97 Jeep only has 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the oil pressure sending unit off of that one and put it on this guy. She's all taped up. Alright, that should be good enough, I think. If I can still spin it with my hand, then we'll keep going, but... Oh, yeah, that's good. If it leaks, I think we might have bigger issues. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, that is a terrible, terrible, terrible fit. Is that right? How loose that plug is. I mean, won't go in, won't go in. I guess. I mean, the prongs are making contact. I guess we're just gonna run with it. That's a little concerning, though. All right, we got the distributor plug cut out from the red Jeep, and the plugs may be different between the 2 Jeeps, but the color of wire is the same, so this will be pretty straightforward. Okie doke. So we've got the distributor wire all spliced in. That's all good to go. I'm still not comfortable with the oil pressure sensor plug. I think it is missing like a grommet that goes around this and it helps seal it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the heat gun, heat this up, until I can stretch it over that plug. And I think, if my calculations are correct, it should seal and stay sealed a lot better. Alright. You know it's hot enough when it starts smoking. There we go. There we go. Alright, let's see if this will plug in any better. Come on. Come on, man. It's just slightly too thick. We got it. Finally got it. So this is the plug. This is the plug we were after. That guy right there. Obviously the grommet was too thick, so all I did was take like 3 O-rings, stack them up next to each other, and then put a shit ton of dielectric grease around them so no water or anything can get in through it. And that made it much tighter than what it was before, but just for a little more reassurance, I put a zip tie right after the hump on the actual sending unit itself and just zip tied it down, and she's very solid now. That makes me a lot happier, makes me a little more comfortable with getting actual oil pressure on the dash cluster inside. Now, will I get oil pressure showing on that dash? I don't know, because like I said earlier, someone said the 97 and 99 ECUs are the same except for getting oil pressure on the actual gauge. So we'll see. I know I'm gonna have oil pressure. I've had oil pressure the entire time this engine has ran. If it's not showing up, what I'll do is, if it's not showing up on the gauge, all I'll do is I'll take this turbo feed line off and crank it over until oil starts dumping out of this, and it will spray like a damn pressure washer. But anyhow, all this took way longer than expected between that sensor and then splicing in the new camshaft sensor on the distributor. It just took way longer than what I thought. Hopefully that splice I did on the distributor holds. None of the wires get loose or anything. But that might wrap it up. We're not going to get to the fuel system. And honestly, it's probably not a bad idea to wait till the trans is in to do the fuel system. That way I know where to route my fuel lines. But this entire side of the motor is wired up except for the battery cables. I'm going to leave them unplugged for now. But this side is basically completely done. But that's a big part of the list checked off. So now I'll probably get started on this side a little bit. Get the injectors and fuel lines put in, or fuel rail put in. All the throttle body sensors plugged in, and just get it looking real nice. I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching. I don't care if I get 200 views or 35,000 views like my first video did. Either way, I'm going to still be pumping out this content because I know you guys love it, and I just love doing this stuff and making YouTube videos. It's super fun. But yeah, so we'll see you next time. Goodbye. I don't know what to do with my hands.